I think since the last public meeting that I spoke at here, the cuts seem a lot more real. It seems less like, let's say, a phony war. Certainly you can see evidence everywhere. You can see it even here that I'm recycling the same shirt that I wore through the election campaign as well, back in May. That's how tough it's got for me. Having said that though, unlike an election campaign, I'm almost pleased I'm no longer unemployed James Nesbitt. According to the publicity for tonight, I'm now James Nesbitt, public sector worker, for which I have to thank the outgoing Labour government for having the Future Jobs Fund, which the Tories have now, of course, killed. I say I work in the public sector. I actually work for, I'm going to admit it, I work for a quango, of which, remember, there's going to be a bonfire at a certain time soon, hopefully not tomorrow, so I will keep this job for at least 6 months. I'm on a 6-month position and looking forward to future prospects. I get the feeling that the company, the agency I work for, that in the past they'd had a culture of saying to people, look, do well for 6 months, turn up on time, do what you're told, and there's a job there for you. I get a sense that that's the way it was once you had a foot in the door. Clearly there's been a change in recent times. You can see you can feel the tension when it's discussed in the room in my future, and you can see it in managers' faces that basically they don't want to say it, but there's no prospects of me being able to develop and use that route to get into youth work or community work, because it's exactly the type of thing that's superfluous for the Tories, and it's also the type of work though that's really important. It's involved specifically helping young people, equipping them with the skills to go into the world of work and stand on their own 2 feet, and that's the type of thing that's gone now. So there will be the part of Glasgow I work in, there will be rising unemployment not just for people like me being bumped off, but also the people we help will get into work. And what we see there is for me, it's a very real example of the trend we're seeing across Britain, which is young people paying for a crisis that wasn't made by us, it wasn't even made by our generation, and for most of us it wasn't even made by our class. It was created by the greed of bankers and the refusal of politicians to do anything to interfere with what was clearly crazy practices that were always going to lead to another crisis and was always going to cause huge unemployment eventually. But that doesn't matter to the Tories, it didn't matter to the outgoing government either, because they're not people who represent us. Looking ahead for young people of all different types, for young workers, looking ahead, no prospects of jobs. We've had no prospects of good jobs for the last 13 years. Certainly in Glasgow, it's been jobs are plenty if you want to earn minimum wage in retail, or if you want to get yourself stressed out to hell earning just above minimum wage in a call centre. But now we don't even have that. There's places like this lay people off, and bear in mind we're the type of people who never had the agreements in place for redundancy. We just get let go and jump away. Looking at what's going to happen to school children. Already in the last few years in this city, we've had titanic battles against school closures, which there were huge community movements against, and which the authorities completely ignored in their drive to cut costs. What's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen in that process? Is it going to stop? No, it's going to be intensified. We'll have centralised schools where the quality of service goes down for children, where parents don't feel assured that their child is going to a safe and healthy place, and where class sizes grow. Notice class size targets is the sort of thing that you don't hear about anymore when you pay attention to politics in the media. Much like child poverty targets, which wasn't so long ago, you were always hearing targets about what we have by 2010 and we wiped it by 2020. You know, we don't hear any of that stuff anymore, which is a quiet admission by the government and by the people in power that they intend to implement policies which they know fine well will make child poverty go up. New children being brought into the world facing poverty and no services and no help from a society which can well afford to give them help, but chooses not to give them it. And looking ahead for students who have been in the news the last couple of days, albeit it's news mainly related to England, which is the lifting of caps on fees, with fees now at £9 grand a year. Crazy money. and it will have a huge effect on Scotland. And we talk about the ideological basis for the cuts and the ideological basis for the policies implemented by the Tories and the Liberals. Well, here's the one attached to that. They don't like working class people going into higher education. As far as they're concerned, universities and the chance to better yourself are for their children, for their wings. They're no for us. The likes of us aren't supposed to be able to read and discuss ideas. We're supposed to get on with work, or else we're supposed to languish in the dole. It's not good enough, it has to be resisted. We would make sure that there's no fees, and also that there's no massive millstone of debt around students' necks. Even in Scotland, the SNP have said they won't reintroduce fees in Scotland. That's great. What they've basically said is they'll introduce a graduate tax, which is pretty much all variations of it have really regressive characteristics, and it's an abandonment of the hard-fought idea that society pays for education for its young people and for older people as well who got the education, because it makes society better, and that's paid for by taxation, which comes from those who can afford to pay more. All of that seems to be gone, and you look about at the mainstream party for somebody who's willing to defend that idea, and you can't find it, not in Scotland, not anywhere. And there's an economic rationale to the reason why you would burden the students with debt, why you would have them. I mean, the average debts now for students coming out of university, new graduates, is on average about 30 grand a year. It's probably going to double overnight with the introduction of fees down south and the pressure up here. What a millstone around people's necks, trying to get on in the world, hopefully moving on into work, potentially, possibly starting a family. All of this stuff suddenly multiplies in difficulty, and when there's no need for that. But that's the reality for us. But as I say, there's an economic rationale, which is that if you leave uni with all that debt, then you take whatever job you can get. It's a 21st century wages policy. It's a way to set worker against worker. And we see that everywhere. We see that in all the government policies and all their economic strategies. It's about setting us against each other. It's student versus worker. It's old versus young. It's the public sector versus the private sector.